The black cleaner screamed, "Don't drink that, your fiancé poisoned it." The words ripped through the billionaire's private dining hall like thunder, freezing forks mid-air, shattering the illusion of safety that his wealth had always promised. For a moment, silence hung heavier than stone. The glass in his hand trembled. His eyes darted between the cleaner, always unseen, always silent, and the woman he believed he would marry. It couldn't be true, he told himself. Not here. Not in his world of glittering chandeliers, white linen tables, and carefully curated perfection. But what unfolded that night would shake him to the core, forcing him to confront betrayal, prejudice, and the uncomfortable truth about who really protects us when danger strikes. The billionaire had built his empire on control. He was the face of efficiency, a man who turned risks into profits, a name spoken with envy in boardrooms. His life moved like clockwork, a fleet of luxury cars, a penthouse that glimmered like a glass crown, and a fiancée chosen from the same circles of power, elegant, ambitious, beautiful. To the world, they were perfection. To him, she was a symbol of everything he thought he deserved after clawing his way to the top. The mansion staff worked quietly in the background, invisible gears in a flawless machine. Among them was the black cleaner, a woman whose presence went unnoticed until dust dared to collect. She moved silently through marble halls, polishing surfaces that reflected everything except her. She knew the rule of survival: don't interrupt, don't intrude, don't exist beyond your duties. Her life outside the mansion was far from polished. Long bus rides, children waiting at home, bills stacked on the counter. Yet inside these walls, she erased herself so others could shine. On the night of the engagement dinner, the house sparkled. Guests arrived in black cars, laughter rolled across velvet carpets, champagne flowed like rivers of light. The fiancée floated through the room in silver silk, her smile the picture of charm. The billionaire beamed, proud of the empire he had built and the life he was about to secure. He didn't notice the way she leaned close to a server, with a glance too sharp, nor the flicker of disdain in her eyes when staff lingered too near. He didn't notice because he never had to, but the cleaner noticed everything. It was her job. She saw how the fiancé whispered into her phone in the kitchen, her tone clipped and conspiratorial. She noticed the vial slip discreetly into a clutch. She noticed the glass poured for the billionaire, the faint shimmer of something unnatural swirling in the liquid. She froze, heart pounding in her chest. Years of silence screamed against her instincts. Say nothing, stay invisible, keep your job. Yet louder still was another truth. If she did nothing, a man would die before her eyes. Her scream cut through the air just as the glass touched his lips. The room erupted. Gasps, accusations, disbelief. The billionaire's fiancé laughed bitterly, dismissing the accusation as madness. And for a moment her word, refined, polished, white, nearly drowned out the cleaner's. Eyes turned on the worker with suspicion, judgment sharp as knives. Racism worked quickly, twisting courage into falsehood, making her seem like the threat instead of the savior. But then the glass was tested. And the truth could not be silenced. The poison was real, the betrayal undeniable. The fiancé's mask crumbled under the weight of evidence, her charm dissolving into venomous rage as she was led away. The billionaire stood in shock, his world unraveling in minutes. Everything he thought he knew about loyalty, love, and appearances disintegrated. And there, in the middle of the chaos, stood the cleaner, the woman no one ever saw, who had saved his life. The days that followed were filled with headlines, scandals and whispers in every corridor of power. But what haunted the billionaire was not the betrayal of his fiancée. It was the realization that the person who had protected him most had been someone he had overlooked completely. He replayed the moment in his mind. Her scream, the courage it took to break silence, the fire in her eyes when she risked everything. She had nothing to gain by saving him. In fact, she risked her livelihood, her dignity, and the prejudice she knew would come crashing down. And yet, she chose truth. He began to see the mansion differently after that. The marble floors were still polished, but now he noticed the hands that made them shine. The glasses still sparkled, but he thought of the cleaner who had watched over him while he was blind. He realized how often society trains us to ignore the very people who keep our lives safe, stable, and intact. He realized how privilege teaches us to trust appearances and ignore the quiet wisdom of those forced into the background. The billionaire didn't respond with charity. He responded with change. He elevated the cleaner's role not as spectacle but with respect. He implemented protections for staff across his companies, fair pay, grievance systems that carried weight, and representation in decisions that affected them. He used his platform to speak about the dangers of silence and the way racism blinds us to truth, even when it's shouted in front of us. Some peers scoffed. Some mocked him for letting a nobody shape his worldview, but he no longer cared. He had nearly died believing a lie. The cleaner didn't seek glory. She went back to her routines, her humility intact, her dignity unshaken. But she carried within her the knowledge that she had changed not just a life, but a system. She had broken the silence, and in doing so, had forced truth into a room that preferred illusions. The billionaire never forgot. He owed his life not to his wealth, not to his status, but to the courage of a black woman society had trained him not to see. And with that truth came a new mission, to ensure that invisibility no longer cost lives, that silence no longer served betrayal. If a scream can save a life, what else might happen if we learn to listen to the voices we've been taught to ignore? The next time someone overlooked raises the alarm, will you dismiss them, or will you finally hear them?